Hello and welcome to Market Madness, the podcast from GiveMeSport, where every day is like deadline day, with myself, Joe Beya, and the GiveMeSport senior football correspondent, Mr. Ben Jacobs, alongside me. Now, we're currently live on Facebook, YouTube, and X, and if you're listening back in the future, yeah, you can do that. Then make sure you're following us on GiveMeSport so you can see the live shows and what are taking place and get up to the minute news as much as it happens. Okay, cool. So today we're going to be joined by Premier League legend, my friend, Mr. Anton Ferdinand. We're also going to be looking into the news that's at the Emirates, all these signings that are happening. I've been waiting for this for months, and then, of course, we're going to be speaking to the man himself, Mr. James Benge, who he'll be joining us to lift the lid on what's happening in North London. I can't wait for that one as well. And of course, we're going to be tapping into the news regarding the Lionesses. They could face elimination from the Euros today. We'll look to see what's going on, what's been going wrong, could potentially go right, and the other teams in their group. Okay, we'll also be keeping you up to date with all the latest breaking transfer news from our main man, the guy who's got his ear to the ground, Mr. Ben Jacobs. For more info on any stories discussed today, head over to GiveMeSport's website and do make sure you're following us across socials. You can get all your questions and comments into us live on the show. I want to say thank you as well for all the Diogo Jota comments and the tributes last week. It was a great touch to you guys watching. So now let's get into it. This is Market Madness from GiveMeSport. Oh my gosh, there he is smiling. I'm joined by the one and only GiveMeSport senior football correspondent, the man in the know, Mr. Ben Jacobs. Ben, how you doing with that lovely jump?
I'm good. Good morning. It is because I am here in New York after watching Chelsea reach the Club World Cup final.
Are you still in your pajamas?
This is a Senegal training top. We've had this conversation before.
No, we haven't.
3 shows ago, you're complimentary of it, and now you're calling it pajamas.
I can see the Puma. Do you know what it is? I can see your bed's not made in the back of your mirror, right? And yeah, you know what? You're right. I wish I saw the Puma.
Look at this.
Oh yeah, okay, makes sense. Makes sense. It's a nice top, by the way.
I was going to bring you one back.
Please don't, please do, because you know what, they're kind of rare to collect sometimes in the big tournaments.
Yeah, sadly they didn't have large, extra large, or extra large, so now I can't.
Unlucky. Anyway,
Let's just start though, Joel, by actually doing what we do best here on Market Madness and giving you a bit of impromptu breaking news that's just reaching me, and then we can get into the show. So Jordan Henderson is going to be leaving Ajax. The player has decided not to take an extension option, and that means he becomes a free agent. In the original deal, after he left Al Ittifaq in Saudi Arabia, at the end of his contract, there was a 1-year option. Ajax were keen to take it. Henderson has decided not to, so he immediately goes into free agency. This was one of those that was rumbling on at the end of June, and obviously the contract expires, but Ajax were trying to get Henderson to take that option. He said no. Now we have free agency, and there are clubs in England and also across Europe's big 5 leagues that are interested in Henderson. It's going to be a big move for him because, remember, he's firmly in Thomas Tuchel's World Cup plans. There's bound to be links with Sunderland and a return there, especially as a free agent. Let's see if anything develops there. They certainly held an interest before Florent Gazolfi came in as sporting director, but they have been quite active, Sunderland, particularly in midfield. So Jordan Henderson is a free agent. He will leave Ajax.
Do you know why he wants to leave? I'm doing this with my chin.
It's why you leave it long.
Yeah. Do you reckon he misses England by any chance? Obviously, he's been gone for a couple of years now, besides when he visits. But
yeah, it's been a strange relationship with Henderson and the Ajax fans, because there was a big feeling amongst both the media and some Ajax supporters that Henderson wanted out, that he was angling for a different kind of move. And he did a slightly awkward press conference where he was pushed on whether he was about to move to France. And it was said that he was refusing to play for Ajax, that he didn't want the captain's armband, and all kinds of things, which Henderson obviously denied and did so publicly. And I'd encourage people to go and look at that press conference. So Henderson, I think, has had quite a tense relationship, 2 sides to the story, of course, with the Ajax fan base. There's been a feeling for some time amongst some supporters that he was looking for a different kind of move, even though Henderson never actually went anywhere and always maintained that he was fiercely loyal to Ajax. But at the end of the day, I think Ajax was a deal that worked after Al Ittifaq because he needed something immediately to keep playing. And actually, at that point, it had impacted his England chances. Now, under Thomas Tuchel, he's fought his way back into the England setup. And I think the opportunity, perhaps in a World Cup year, to move maybe back to England, or possibly, I'm told, France as well as another leading destination. He just might feel that that's best for him in terms of solidifying that place in Thomas Tuchel's World Cup squad, because obviously, given his age, this will be his last World Cup for England and very possibly his last major tournament.
Okay, you know what? That's really good to know, and please keep us in the loop with that news because I'm interested. Obviously, it's a World Cup year, like you said. It could be anywhere. It could be Burnley, but moving it on to the Club World Cup. You were in the stadium last night watching Chelsea defeat Fluminense to book a place in the final against either Real Madrid or PSG, who play each other tonight. Now, you got to tell us, Mr. Jacobs, how did Chelsea look?
Yeah, I'm surprised that Liv's not here to tell the tale, given that she's also in New York. Some of us went to bed before midnight, others didn't. I will name no names, but one of us has made the show and one of us hasn't. Chelsea, they were very good, very impressive. It's so difficult to judge because naturally they've had to integrate all these new signings. They've had a long old season. That was game number 64, I believe, for Chelsea. And then they haven't faced a kind of European heavyweight other than Benfica. They lost to Flamengo and there was a bit of a meltdown. And since then, the draw kind of opened up. And Chelsea have done very well to navigate tricky conditions, beat everyone that's in front of them. And I think in terms of adapting to what Enzo Maresca wants and the new signings bedding in, they've just got better and better with every single game. They look really, really strong in the first half against Benfica in terms of the system. They did well against Palmeiras, again, particularly through the first hour. And then against Fluminense, they were largely in control. I think the first half was a bit more even. Fluminense had a penalty shout. Trevor Chalobah got done for a handball, and then it was overturned by VAR. Marc Cucurella cleared a chance off the line. But João Pedro was just a difference maker against his boyhood club, Fluminense. The first goal was sensational outside the area, used his pace and movement to get into position, curled one into the top right-hand corner. And the second goal was just sort of beast mode. It was a fantastic diagonal pass by Enzo Fernandez. Pedro then got into the space, put his head down, knew where the goal was, and it was just power. And they always look better, don't they, when they come off the underside of the bar. So Chelsea will be delighted in football terms, but also financially speaking, they've made around £80 million. If they win the final, they can add another 7.5 million. And that pays for João Pedro and Liam Delap, or Jamie Gittins and Liam Delap. So this has been a good tournament for Chelsea. And although there's, of course, always a possibility that they're going to get into the season with a little bit of fatigue due to the workload, right now it's showpiece final against either PSG or Real Madrid. And Chelsea have got a chance to make a statement, win a trophy alongside the Conference League, put a gold badge on the shirt for 4 years, show that they can beat one of these UEFA heavyweights in the final. And therefore, I think they'll be delighted with the Club World Cup and also with João Pedro, who's basically paid for himself or half of his fee within 2 goals in 1 game.
I have to say that was one of the worst reports you've ever done that I've seen. That doesn't benefit me at all as an Arsenal
You just
fan.
wanted me to say they're not looking good. Arsenal are going to finish above them.
What did you make of
it? Did you watch the game?
No, I didn't. I just saw the highlights, if I'm honest with you. And it's all over. You can't escape it, though. It's all over the timeline. Oh, João Pedro, what a signing. And what's made it even worse is I thought that they were getting 60 million for being at this stage. But you've actually corrected me, or corrected all of us and said that's 80 mil. That hurt within itself. And the fact that obviously, like, João Pedro, for me, he was a striker that I would have looked for Arsenal to obtain last season. I wouldn't have been mad with him at all. At least having him there, but it looks like Chelsea didn't really have competition. There was a bit of chat about him going to Newcastle for a short while, but largely he hasn't really been pursued by a lot of clubs. And I'm like, how did we let this guy go? How?
Yeah, he's not necessarily the Arsenal profile, especially if you're going to move for Eze through the centre and then a more defined left winger. I think Pedro is that versatile kind of player Arsenal probably feel that if they are going to enter the conversation for Eberechi, Eze, Pedro wouldn't fit, because he's not going to want to spend that much time out wide permanently. But it will be interesting in this Chelsea system, because if you've got Liam Delap and Nicholas Jackson, and João Pedro said to me in an interview before the game that he sees himself as a striker, and obviously you've got three, therefore, in that number 9 position. I still think that Christopher Nkunku's role, because he's expected to depart, will become João Pedro, and then it'll be moved out into wide areas when needed. Whereas if you look at Arsenal, you've got left winger, they want somebody quite traditional, or they're going to go down the Noni Madueke route. And then we have to see whether Gabriel Martinelli or Leandro Trossard leave. If they do, could be right winger, left winger, but it could, for example, be Noni Madueke on the right, move over to the left. And then that attacking midfield position, or advanced 8, or even number 10, is another kind of role. And I feel like Chelsea wanted another 10 or second striker that could play 9 or out wide. Whereas I think Arsenal in that central area want an Eberechi Eze who plays behind the striker, is versatile, but with goals output. Not quite the same profile as João Pedro. And that's probably why Arsenal didn't enter the race.
You know, just in case we've got Mr. Anton Ferdinand watching in the background, I don't want him to think this is my worried face. I'm just intrigued, that's all. But moving it on.
Looks pretty worried to me.
Yeah, interested. Before we welcome Anton, I want to set you a question. And for those of the listeners and viewers who might not know, on Market Madness, this is where I ask Ben a question at the start of the show and he answers at the end of the show. And this week, Ben, your question is, where will Marcus Rashford play his football next season? And of course, if you want to hear the answer to that question, then make sure you stick around to the end of the show. Okay, cool. I think we should get into inviting Mr. Anton Ferdinand.
Hello?
Yay!
There he is.
Yes. Sorry. Technical difficulties over
here. Mate, you should have told me. I didn't know we shopped in the same mirror place.
Oh, man. I'm currently in a hotel at the moment. I've just come out of a meeting with my dad's Ferdinand Collective business. So I've just jumped out of there to come here and talk to you guys.
Yeah, I've actually seen a image on socials of yourself and Rio. Glad to see that it's going well. But yeah, you know, look, as we know, with you, Anton, it's a great pleasure to have you here. Loads of different stories I'm sure we'll tell, the great strikers you've played with, etc. Ben, I'll let you lead on or start with a couple questions, just as I formulate myself to make sure that I ask Anton the right questions. I got to think about my one, so you go first.
What do you mean you ain't done your prep, Joel? This is very unlike you.
I've done my prep, but because you're on, I've got to make sure I get the right TT question. You know, I'm going to ask about TT, right?
Yeah.
He's saving all the hard ones for later. He knows that an interview never starts with the difficult questions.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'll give you a few softballs and then he'll come in for the kill. Well, I suppose we better start with West Ham. It's an interesting time and summer, isn't it, where they're seemingly having to wait potentially for a Kudos sale. They've not quite brought in who they need at the moment. What do you make of this slow start to the summer for West Ham, and where do you think they need to strengthen?
I think it hasn't been surprising, if I'm being honest. You know, Graham Potter's got time now for this summer in terms of pre-season, which I'm happy that I'm going on, and I'll be able to see how he works very, very closely. I'm looking forward to it, along with seeing the players that we've got and the new players that we're going to get in. We will get new players in for sure, but at the moment it looks like we have to wait for a sell, which is unfortunate, but that's just the way it is at the moment, maybe. But I think for me personally, I'm excited to see how Graham Potter deals with it and the players that he brings in. I think there's a lot of players in the squad that he really, really likes, but obviously he needs to add to. You know, having a lot of players leave in the summer don't help. But I have full faith in Graham Potter that if given the resources to go and get players that he needs, you know, and as he's shown through Brighton, he can get some good deals done. You know, and if he's able to do that, then I think we'll have a really good season.
It feels like they're going to have to bring in a striker. We know they tried Evan Ferguson. It didn't really work. Fantastic player, struggled with injuries, and now they're moving in another direction. You've got an older kind of striker at the club. It's great to see Mikel Antonio on his recovery and still there and contracted. Whatever happens there, we'll have to wait and see. Nicholas Füllkrug as well, but one of those players that also will need replacing even if he works because of his age in the long run. So it feels like a young striker or a peak age striker should be high on the list of what West Ham need. And I feel like we were saying this in January, we were saying this last summer, and we were saying this in the January before as well. Do you think they'll finally get that number 9 position right? And what kind of profile or player do you think would be a good signing for West Ham?
I think hopefully we do get that signing this year, you know. But as I said, everyone's looking for a striker. It's one of the hardest positions to go out and find, you know. Everyone's looking for that number 9. Arsenal need number 9 to try and get that title, the Premier League, over the line, you know. And they're finding it hard to find one, albeit they might get Gyökeres now. But every club needs a striker. Striker is probably the hardest position to get. But it's the type of striker that we need is someone that will adhere to the way Graham Potter likes to work and likes to play, you know. And I think, I said, with Graham Potter having his team in the building now and fully functioning and working on getting these players in, you know, the striker that we get hopefully will be the one that will adhere to everything that Graham Potter needs and wants. I can't hear you, Joe.
He's managed to mute himself.
I just want to correct you there, Anton. I don't think Arsenal are actually struggling with finding a striker. I think we've identified our struggle. We're just dealing with terms and conditions at the moment. So, yeah, just wanted to say that at the start.
I know, but I'm just saying that because he ain't signed yet. So, you know, in football, it's not done until it's done.
Yeah. Speaking of signings, is Mohamed Kudus, is he going to be leaving this summer, or what's going on to real star boy? Is he staying or leaving?
I mean, it looks like he's still a West Ham player right now. I don't know the ins and outs of whether I haven't heard from him or from the club that he wants to leave. All of that's been hearsay. But so you know my thoughts on Kudus. I love him as a player. I think he's a fantastic player. I hope he doesn't leave. I really do, but I really don't. Sorry, but you know, if we have to sell to get players in, and he's the one that has to go, that'll benefit, and maybe we can get a couple of players in off that money. Then so be it. You know, and the fact of the matter is, if we are going to sell anyone, you know, we've got Somerville, we've got Bowen, who can play on either wing. So yes, for me personally, I love Kudus, and it'll be hard to watch him go, especially if it was Tottenham. And I hope it isn't Tottenham, but if it is Tottenham, I'd hate to see him go there. But the fact that we've got ready-made replacements to go in there and potentially a budget to go and get more players in, you know, that outweighs the thoughts that I have.
I would love to see him at Arsenal. I really would. Just putting it out there. And I think, who knows?
He would thrive in your team, but like, I think he does better in your team than Madueke and players like that.
100%. I 100% agree with you. So I don't know what's going on over there. I think at the start of the show, I could have let the audience know, just in case they don't. You've made 218 appearances in the top flight, right? We're talking West Ham.
Should have been more.
West Ham, Sunderland, QPR, right? But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that happens with transfers. I would like to know from your point of view exactly what happens during a transfer period and how does it happen? For example, when you went to QPR, how did that all go down?
Yeah, I mean, well, stuff with me and Steve Bruce wasn't getting on. I had offers from Ukraine. Dnipro was the club, I think, and I had point blank said, no, I'm not going there. That's one place I will not be going. I want to play in the Premier League. End up playing the 2 games in that, one game that week after Steve Bruce telling me that I had to leave against Swansea away when Swansea were on fire. went to the Liberty Stadium and got a draw, I think it was there. And then the week later, QPR come, and it was just him saying to me, listen, QPR made a bid, we've accepted it. Are you willing to go and speak? And you stay in the Premier League and you're back in London. And I said, yeah, no problem, especially after Steve Bruce telling me as long as he's at the football club, I'll never get another contract at this football club again. And I only 1 year left on my contract. So I thought it was the right time for me to go and speak with QPR and Neil Warnock. And that's how it went down. There's other scenarios where, like, I was sold from West Ham to Sunderland, you know, and that was a longer process in the basis that, one, I didn't want to go, and negotiations around fees and money took a bit more time, and the fact that I didn't want to go, I wasn't really bothered about all of that stuff. It didn't really play no mind to me, and it didn't really take me off of my game and how I was. But there's so many different facets that go into a transfer that people don't see. So if your team's taking long to sign somebody, Joel, it could be the fact that, you know, they're arguing over small little things that make a big difference.
Point taken. I want to ask you, how different are things now compared to when you were playing, especially when it comes to transfers? Like, you know, obviously there's agent fees, there's all this kind of stuff that happens. How different is it now, would you say, when it comes to transfers?
I think they're a lot more complicated nowadays. I think back in the day, and there's still deals that are done like this, where is the player interested? Is there a conversation to be had with the clubs? Are the selling club willing to sell? You know, are the buying club willing to pay that money? And then it happens straightforward. I think that still happens nowadays, but there's so many different facets. Like, agents are involved more now. There's a lot more money involved in it now. So there's a lot more talking points, a lot more sticking points in a transfer than we know. You know, agents nowadays want to be paid the going rate of the market, you know, and sometimes have a bearing on a player not going somewhere because they're not getting the money that they want, and they'll steer them in another direction. You know, there's all that. What happens where an agent might now go and say to another club, put a bid in just to get that other club going. You know, there's so much facets to it. You know, it's a game of cat and mouse. You know, but that's just how football is nowadays.
Let me ask you about Sunderland, if I can, Anton, because if memory serves me correct, you would have spent 2 or 3 years with Jordan Henderson at Sunderland, I believe. Yeah. And the news reaching us in the last hour or so is that Jordan will leave Ajax and become a free agent. We know he's firmly in Thomas Tuchel's plans. So this next move for Jordan Henderson is going to be massive. And presumably he's going to want to play in a Big Five league and play at his last World Cup. What chances do you think, now he's a free agent, of a Sunderland return? And if not Sunderland, where would be a good move for him?
I'll take him at West Ham. I'll say that now. He's still got legs. He can still get around the pitch, which is something that we need in the middle of the park at West Ham. He's a leader, you know, and I say this all the time. I knew that he, from the minute I came into West Ham and I started being around him, I saw things in him that I knew he was going to go and do what he'd done in the game. You know, just a little example of, he used to come and stand inside the gym when us, the first team, were in the gym, and he used to watch the players that he was up against, watch what they were doing. And I went to him one time and I said, listen, you can't be in there. And he said, what are you doing? He said, I'm just here, I'm watching. Dean Whitehead plays in my position, who's the captain. He can do 20 pull-ups. I need to be able to do 25. So he can push 100 kg on the bench press. I need to be able to push 105. Whatever they're doing, I need to be able to do more. That's my way in. And when I heard that, I was like, wow. I said, you know, you can stay as long as possible. You know, so I knew he was going to become the player that he was, that he became. Sunderland, it'll be a great fit. I actually tweeted on a Sunderland post when they wished him happy birthday, and I was like, what a time to announce him on his birthday. You know, it'd be a great homecoming for him. Sunderland are back in back where they belong in the Premier League, a massive football club for sure, and it'll be a great addition and something that they would need in the Premier League, someone who knows the Premier League inside out and is a leader of men, and a great representation of a football club, and that football club. But as I said, as a West Ham fan sitting here talking to you guys, we need midfielders. I'll take him all day long.
No, I think you're spot on there, Anton, especially with his experience. He's got so much to offer. And yeah, I actually agree with you there. I also wanted to ask, when it comes to players that you've played with, obviously that was Dean Henderson, but like I said, Thierry Henry, there's a famous story of you that's floating around in the internet. You're a Premier League player, so we know it's possible, but I just want to know. I want to hear the time that you had a good game, let's say against Thierry Henry. Please, if you can let the GiveMeSport.
It was more than one. More than one.
It was more than one now.
Yeah, at home at Upton Park, the same. It was the same. But the game that you're referring to that I speak about was the game at Highbury. I'll just say it. Last team to ever win at Highbury. Yes, I was a part of it. First team to win at Emirates. Yes, I was a part of it. Joel don't like this story, by the way. I'm just pointing it out there. But yeah, I played against Thierry at Highbury, the Holy Grail, Highbury. What a place! What a place to play football. And yeah, I had a very, very, very good game against him that night. A fantastic player, a hero of mine. Absolutely love him. One of, if not the best the best striker to play in the Premier League for sure, on what he done. But watching Thierry over the years, he's very, very smart, and I knew that he preyed on the weak in the back line. And every time I played against him, I set out to make sure that he knew in the first 15 minutes I was not the weak link in this back line, because I knew at any given time he could embarrass me. So in the first 15 minutes of a game, I'd let him know I was about. And because of that, I very rarely came up against him, and he didn't really play up against me. So when people ask me who's the best I played against, I never ever say Thierry, because it wasn't a case of that he played up against me for a long period of the game. And so that's why he's one of the best, because don't get me wrong, he could go up against the best and actually take them to the cleaners, which you've seen him do. But if you watched him and you watched him properly, he would also take people to the cleaners who weren't the best, and he'd stay on them and make sure that, because he knew he's going to get more joy more often than not. Not saying that he couldn't against the best, because we watched him do it against the best, but I just knew that for me personally, I didn't want to be on Match of the Day getting nutmegged and getting shaped and baked here, there and everywhere, because he could do it. And because if that would have happened to me, I wouldn't have been able to go back to where I grew up in Peckham and walk around. I would have been getting laughed at.
Wow, that is, I think you put that nicely there. What my aim is, Anton, is when I get to sit down with Thierry Henry, I plan to bring you guys both together. And
I'd love to.
That is what I plan to do.
Listen, you know what? He would look at me like, listen, compared to the players that he played against, defenders that he played against, I'm nowhere near in the tier that he played against. That's just my living experience of what I had with him, and I would never ever be disrespectful to Thierry, because, as I said, he's one of my favourite players, if not, and one of the best, if not the best strikers to grace our beautiful game and our beautiful league. In the Premier League.
And you got to remember as well, though, there is pride in having good games against those legends, bro.
100%. He probably won't remember it, but when I asked him for his shirt after the game, and he said, yeah, can I have yours? And the fact that he wanted my shirt after the game, that meant more to me than anything. I didn't care about what just happened in the game. We just beat them. I went up to Nigeria Coker and Marlon Harewood and go, bro, did Terry ask for your shirt, though? Because you asked for mine. I was buzzing. And that just tells you how big of a coup that was for me. But it wasn't just him that I played against. Like, Rio's spoken about it before on his podcast, around the fact that whenever I was playing against the big teams, I never had to ask how Anton played, because he knew I'd play well. Yes, the big player scored against me and stuff, but generally over a 90-minute game, I'd have imposed myself and really, really play well. I enjoyed tussles with Robin van Persie, Wayne Rooney, Torres, Suarez, players of this ilk, Ruud van Nistelrooy, players of this ilk. I great battles with all of them, you know, and at times I come out on top and at times I didn't, you know. But one thing for sure, I know that they came off that pitch thinking, okay, Anton's not a bad player.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, 218 Premier League appearances, my friend. You don't, mate, I'll be happy with 5. So I think, and people don't know this, but there's a lot of personal circumstances that have stopped that being more. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But that's a story for another day. I want to quickly take you through quickfire questions. Just need 1-word answers, please, Anton. So, Who is the most underrated player you played with?
Alejandro Fowling. QPR, left-footed centre midfielder, cold. Had knee injuries that killed him. But Alejandro Fowling. When I went to QPR, sorry, I know you said 1-word answers, but this has to be spoken about. When I went to QPR, all of my friends were asking me about Adel Taarabt. What's he like? I said, he's a joke, but there's a boy named Alejandro Fowling. Cold player. I remember away at White Hart Lane, on the edge of the box, QPR, who was wearing the orange kit. Yeah. My man shaped up for a shot. And he, instead of taking the shot, he reversed it, pass into Djibril Cissé's feet. Djibril Cissé goal. It was a joke. I remember going, "Oh, that's unbelievable!" Like, he was cold.
No, that's good to hear. The trickiest player that you've ever played against?
Ooh, Frank Ribery.
Really?
Yeah, under 21s.
That young Frank Ribery was less direct to it as well, and he was more slippery, isn't it?
He was a joke, like unreal. At White Hart Lane, that game for England 21s.
Wow.
It was a good game. Good game.
Who do you think is the best defender in the Premier League today?
Virgil van Dijk. No, there's no getting away from it. Virgil van Dijk is unbelievable, and I think Saliba at the moment is a close second.
I'm glad you said that. One club you always hated to play against, and why?
Everton at Goodison Park.
Really?
Tough place to go. And could be intimidating. The old school Goodison Park, old school stay. I know they're not there no more. We won't be there as of this year. But you could be running and man tapping on your back.
Considering if all the signings are made, strikers, etc., who do you think wins the Premier League this season?
I think Liverpool win it again. Sorry to say it, Joel. I think Liverpool win it again. They've got a massive incentive. Just again, condolences for me personally. I've not said it publicly, but condolences to the Jota family, both brothers' families, immediate family, their wife and kids and stuff. A sad time for football, the footballing community. So my heart, my prayers, and my strength, I'm sending them over to the family as a whole. But I think the Liverpool squad, the way that they've done their business. Arne Slot has has done his business really, really well, but also there's an incentive to go and continue the legacy of Jota. And I think with the signings that they brought in and the presence that they've already got, and the way that they won the league last year, they're going to take some stopping.
I have to be honest with you. I think that was very well said, Anton. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I was telling the producers today, I've had a crazy day. I look forward to Market Madness, but even more so because you've been on. And hopefully you join us again soon. And please, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody watching, if you want to follow Anton, then you can find him on @Anton_Ferdinand5. And he's got great content online. He's going to be on tour with his beloved West Ham. He's on podcasts. Me and him argue occasionally, and he's a top guy. So please, good luck with the Ferdinand Collective. Good luck this season with the coach. Everything you're going to do, mate, I know you're going to do a good, stellar job because you're a good man and you're good at what you do.
Thank you very much, man. And that's nice of you. And
no worries.
Back towards you guys as well, man. Like, thank you for having me.
No worries. Okay,
top
cool.
man.
So, Ben, you're giving me the eyes. Are you okay over there? What's going on?
I'm busy. I've got lots of breaking news to bring you. So let's start with Palmeiras, who have confirmed Ramon Sousa has joined from Nottingham Forest. My understanding is that deal is worth £10 million. Then I can reveal that we have a deal in place in only the last few moments between Brighton and Hove Albion and Sunderland for Simon Adringa. And the total package is in excess of £20 million there. And then I just want to touch upon Everton as well, where I can tell you that an inquiry was made for the Aston Villa captain, John McGinn. And the interest from Everton was concrete. They're definitely looking to strengthen in that area. But Villa have indicated they do not wish to sell. And therefore, Everton have decided it's not worth their time making a bid. David Moyes is still looking for that experience in the centre of the park. He wants kind of midfield metronome or a deeper lying playmaker, and also an out-and-out number 6, which is where the Wilfred and Diddy interest comes from. And then Everton are also one of the clubs that are looking at the Ipswich winger Amari Hutchinson, who I'm actually told would be okay staying with Ipswich and backing them to go back up. But naturally, if he gets a Premier League opportunity, then it might be something that changes his mind. And then good news for Everton, the France under-21 striker Timo Barry will join from Villarreal. My understanding there is that the £27 million fee has been agreed and that Barry now has permission to undergo a medical. So that deal is at the final stages of completion. So lots going on, a triple whammy there of breaking news for you, Joel.
Man, that you know what? That's really, really good. I mean, what about Aubameyang? If you can talk to us about that, because obviously that was one of my favorite players at the past, and we've seen him jump around from different clubs. Do you have any update when it comes to him? I've been seeing a lot of videos online and on socials, but what's actually happening?
Yeah, so Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang will leave Al Qadsiya in Saudi Arabia. It's a mutual termination. It's been driven by Al Qadsiya, a technical and strategic decision. They obviously really like what Oba did. I think he scored 21 goals in all competitions last season. So clearly has had an impact since joining. But due to his age and the fact that Al Qadsiya want to bring in a younger number 9, they've decided to let Aubameyang go. It's an amicable exit. He's understanding of the situation. So Aubameyang now is a free agent, and I'm told to keep an eye on both MLS and Turkey in particular. It would be surprised if he comes back to a Big 5 league in Europe, but there's firm interest in Turkey from Besiktas in particular, and in MLS we'll have to wait and see whether anybody picks up his discovery rights in the year before the World Cup. And Qadsiya are making this move because they're looking for this younger number 9. Atlanta's Matteo Retegui is the top target at the moment, but a deal there might cost as high as 55 or 60 million euros. And Qadsiya, by the way, are also looking to add an attacking midfielder separate to replacing Aubameyang, and Otavio, who's already playing in Saudi Arabia, the 30-year-old at Al Nassr, is one of their targets there. But it's over between Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Al Qadsiya, and we're just waiting for them to finalise that exit package, and then I'm sure that we'll get an official announcement soon.
Man, thanks for that, Ben. I actually can't wait to see what happens to Oba. It didn't end well for him at Arsenal, but I loved him in general. But speaking of Arsenal, we're very happy to welcome CBS Premier League correspondent and Arsenal guru, Mr. James Benge. James, are you here to join us?
Benge!
I am indeed. Hi, good to see you guys again. It's been a while.
Mate, that's an interesting shirt. I don't want to get it wrong and say, what is it exactly? From here, it looks like West Ham.
Tie-dye Fred Perry. No, I mean,
Nice.
Fred Perry is quite West Ham, I will admit, but no West Ham colours. Never wear any club colours on podcasts. Just wear them out in the street.
Nice. I was going to say, well, anyway, keep moving it back to Arsenal. Like, there's a lot of activity going on. In the last few weeks, you guys have laughed at me, but now this week it's time for me to stand up and ask my questions. I want to ask you, James, how do you make of Arsenal's business so far? You know, Zubimendi, Kepa, and Norgard coming in.
Yeah, I mean, the business that's been done, I think, has been reasonably impressive. I really like what they've done in midfield. Martin Zubimendi is probably the best holding midfielder, playmaking midfielder from deep that you could get on the market right now. And a real coup, considering that he was a player that Liverpool tried to sign, that Real Madrid, I mean, there's all sorts of talk in the Spanish press. And what I was always told is, like, Real Madrid really like Martin Zubimendi, but they're not trying to sign him because they know he's going to Arsenal. So that was a huge coup. I mean, I have my sort of doubts about Christian Norgard and how a player from a relatively low possession team fits into Arsenal, but an experienced Premier League player at a good price. That is all finalised now, barring the announcement. Kepa as well. It's a Premier League number 1 to come in and be your number 2 goalkeeper. Good deal there. So the back end of the pitch with one more deal to be done, maybe on Christian Mosquera. That one, he's rejected the contract offer. That one is just sort of on ice at the moment, but expected to progress during the summer. That all looks like it's been done quite well. But really, I know that, Joel, you and every other Arsenal fan, you want to know what's happening at the top end of the pitch, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't wait till we get the older. Is it this? Yeah, that's how I'm going to start the show next week if he's announced. I'm going to be doing this. So yeah, for me, I just want it to be done and completed. But I also want to ask as well, like, sorry to jump in there, Ben. I know that the next question should be yours, but Eze, is that still happening? Because I'm a bit greedy here. We've done well with the goalkeeper. We're probably going to get a customary defender at some point. I'm not giving up on that. But Eze, what's going on?
Yeah, Arsenal have spoken to Eberechi Eze's agents. I think it was Ben that revealed that, I should say. So there's been conversations there to understand the parameters of a deal. It's very similar to what's happened with Noni Madueke as well. And I think one thing we should understand about the way that Andrea Berta appears to be doing business and sort of speaking to people that know this is kind of the approach they're taking, is they want to understand the market. They want to understand, if we go for Noni Madueke, do we get Eze as well? Do we get, 2 wingers, an attacking midfielder and a striker? Probably not, but a winger, an attacking midfielder, a striker, that feels like something that is viewed as feasible. But you have to spread that budget carefully. That's why it's sort of significant that they agree a fee with Sporting for Victor Gyökeres. We can come on to talk about that and why I'm a little bit more skeptical later on. Sorry, Joel. But at the moment, they're almost in that info gathering stage, and that that would include a Madueke, that would include a Rodrigo and an Eze, and they will understand what they can do, and that's also in the context as well of whether someone comes in for Leandro Trossard. My understanding on Gabriel Martinelli is it's a player that they're not looking to sell, but like almost everyone in the squad, there is a price where a deal can be done, and there may be clubs out there that choose to test that price. I don't think it will come from Saudi Arabia right now. So yeah, I know it's sort of frustrating with pre-season around the corner, but Arsenal really are still trying to understand the position they're in. I think striker, we now know, pushing ahead with Gyökeres, in talks with Sporting to finalise that. And when they know where they are with that, the exact final fee, it will give them more of a sense of what they can do across the rest of the front line.
He's loving that. It's interesting, James, and we'll speak about Gyökeres in detail in a moment, because there's almost 2 separate points with Arsenal. One is they need a number 9. They had 2 leading number 9 targets. They had to decide which one they're going to go for. It feels very price relevant because both players seemingly want the move, and perhaps they don't need any other moving parts there. Then you look at the other part of the front line and you think, if you're going to pitch Madueke as a backup to Saka, but say he can move over to the left, then if suddenly another left winger arrives like Rodrigo, then Madueke is going to go, that wasn't what I was promised. If you're going to bring in Eze, he's a central player, but you've got Rice, you've got Zubimendi. That puts a bit of a question mark, in my opinion, over the role or the minutes of Martin Odegaard. And then if you're going to bring in a Rodrigo on the left, he can play on the right. So then why do you need Noni Madueke? So do you kind of feel that the rest of Arsenal's frontline business, other than the number 9, and I'll let Joel do the Gyökeres question because he just wants to keep doing the thing that I can't do properly with my hands. So I'll let him ask that. There we go. But yeah, do you feel like we might have to be patient with how Arsenal move just behind the number 9 because of how many moving parts there actually are?
Yeah, it's such a good way of putting it. I don't know if you would sort of say the same, Ben, but it feels to me, and I appreciate I've come on here to sort of give you an Arsenal insider's perspective, but it feels like there is sort of a few bits of information that we haven't quite managed to snare out from inside the corridors of Highbury House just yet. And it feels like there's something we're still to sort of see play out. But obviously, it to an extent, it is really sort of understanding. Like right now, we don't really know how available, if at all, Rodrigo is. We know that kind of those conversations haven't really happened at all on almost any side. We just know that if he were to be available, he's a player that Arsenal would love to sign. So I think that position, it's a little bit more wait and see. And we have to say as well that you can afford to wait and see if you're able to start Martinelli and Bukayo Saka in those early games this season. The kind of challenge with the centre forward position is you have Kai Havertz, who only at the very end of last season came back from injury. You have him, and that's it at centre forward, really. So that is one way you need your striker. So, I mean, my theory, and this is just theory all along throughout this summer, has been that the Rodrigo, Eze, Madueke, all those players, that big circle that has more names in it as well. Someone like Semenyo, Morgan Rogers as well. That may be one that drifts to later in the window. It may even be that Arsenal playing Premier League football by the time we get a real sense of what's happening in that position. Then there's the striker one. I mean, not quite done and dusted, and always room for hiccups, but we pretty much know the direction of travel there.
I would love a Morgan Rogers move, but I just know Villa just wouldn't do it. How would you rate our transfers so far compared to other clubs?
Can I include Gyökeres in it? Because we
yes,
think, and it's more interesting then.
Yeah, I told Anton yes, because I was just like, it's done. I told him it's done. So yes.
Okay, that would take it from an 8 to a 7. I'm not. Like the raw ingredients, the raw attributes are so impressive. When you watch him in the flesh, he's thrilling and he's dangerous. He's strong and he has this real habit. Joel, I know you all have seen this from the Arsenal Sporting game of he'll try and find the weak link. Even if he thinks the weak link is William Saliba for some reason, he'll go at them and he won't stop. And I really like the sort of sense that you get from talking to people who know him and have worked with him before that like, he's all in on this deal. He really wants it. Maybe it doesn't have the fear that others might have about moving to Arsenal. But all those goals we see, aside from the fact that a lot of them are penalties, a load of them are against teams that if you look at their ELO rating and you look at other measures for assessing how good a league is, the bottom half of the Portuguese league, it's like scoring those goals in League One or like the bottom level of the Championship. You wouldn't be excited if I said this guy scored 9 goals against Derby County last season, would you? You'd go, what on earth are we doing with him? And that's the real worry is all we have is some good performances in the Champions League. But nothing.
All we have. Did you see how we played against City? I'll sign them off the
games, though, isn't it? It's a couple of games.
James, you're killing me here, man. You really are.
I live to be proven wrong. Ben will tell you I have no problem with being proven wrong in my opinions and my analysis. But where I have sympathy is it's not like there is a really obvious guy on the market that you should go and get instead. Isak, not an option. I don't know who the other star strikers are that could emerge in the next few weeks that aren't already at top clubs. So you kind of have to gamble. I just don't know if the gamble I would have done would have been Gyökeres.
Well, just to add to your point, we struggled against lower teams this last season. We had 14 draws, so maybe he can come in and score goals against those 14 teams. So
it's just that the lower Premier League teams would be 4th in Portugal easily. You take Ipswich to the Primeira Liga, 4th or 5th.
I don't know. Southampton popped around.
Maybe not Southampton. Yeah, maybe not them.
I'm not sure. But listen, James, I want to say it's been a massive pleasure to have you as always, and I'm going to be staying in contact with you so that every time Gyökeres scores, you're just going to get this picture from me in your DMs. That's it. I don't care which team, lower part of the table or higher out.
I'll enjoy getting those texts.
No worries, man. We'll make sure we stick to it. If you want to keep on following James, where can they find you, James, off screen?
Twitter, Blue Sky, same sort of places as everywhere, really.
Yeah, and the address, please?
At James Benge on Twitter, at James Benge, and then all that other stuff on Blue Sky.
Thank you very much. And obviously, everybody watching as well, this is Market Madness, GiveMeSport. Make sure you're following us on socials. All right. I want to move it on because now we need to talk about the Lionesses. That's right, man. I don't know if you guys have been watching, but England are in England they could be getting knocked out today. They could be getting knocked out. They're playing the Netherlands. They obviously lost against France in the first game. They have to at least win or draw, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, at least a draw. But a win is really important. I suppose you're playing Wales in your final game. You'd kind of fancy England to win that. But you then would be sort of vulnerable to France and Netherlands almost contriving to block England out. So really it's must win, and it's must win against a really good team. Maybe not the sort of power of, the end of the 2010s, but a team that played really well in beating Wales. So huge pressure on England. It's crazy to be doing that like 4 days after we were all so excited for what this team might achieve.
Is it if they lose tonight, how do they still mathematically go through? Because it could happen. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're knocked out. It just makes it very hard, right?
Yeah. So if they lose tonight, they would also be requiring Wales to beat France, or certainly they couldn't afford that. If they lost and France won, they would be out. So they'd be needing a favour from Wales against a France side that we all saw in that opening game are a really good team. Probably, if you kind of say after Spain, I think they would be the second or third favourites behind Spain. Right. I mean, England. The crazy thing about this group of death, is I think if England had got the result, if Alessia Russo had been on side and there'd been a few more lucky breaks, we would be saying the same things about England, and we'd be saying, oh, the Dutch have to, or the French have to win. The French have to beat Wales. That is the real challenge of a group of death. I love 16-team tournaments. It's so good for that. It's hard. I think there was a lot that Serena Wiegmann got wrong against France, especially in those fullback positions. How much of it she really changes, how much time she's had to change it since Saturday, that's the worry.
I mean, we're used to seeing them win, hopefully they can turn it around.
I hope so. Believe so as well. The talent there is of the highest order. You have, as we well know, Joel, you have Champions League winners in that team. You have really talented young attackers as well. I think players like Lauren James, Jess Carter, Alex Greenwood, and Alessia Russo will all be coming out of that game thinking that was not the level I'm capable of showing. So I'm hopeful. And I mean, if they do beat the Netherlands, that's a real fillip and a real bit of momentum going into what would then be a really tough route through the knockout stages.
Man, James, I want to say thank you again for joining us. And one more time, for anybody who wants to know where to find you, please.
Yeah, at James Benge on Twitter, at James Benge on Blue Sky as well. Do a YouTube show with Charles Watts, my fellow Arsenal writer, which you can see once a week. Not this week. I think he's moving house or something. But yeah, and here fairly often. I'm very lucky to join you guys, and hope to see you again.
It's true. Ben, thank you so much. James, thank you so much for your time. We have breaking news now for Mr. Ben.
Yeah, I ran away to get you a little bit of breaking news, and I can bring you the latest now on Victor Osimhen, linked, of course, with several Premier League clubs, but it's always felt like it's between Saudi Arabia and Galatasaray. And I can tell you there is a meeting ongoing right now where Galatasaray are in advanced talks with Napoli, having indicated that they'll not trigger the 75 million euros release clause, but they will match it. And now the parties are discussing payment terms. Galatasaray want to pay the clause in 5. Napoli are saying pay the clause in 3. Maybe they meet halfway. Those talks are ongoing at the moment. But now Galatasaray have matched the clause. This is after bidding a number more in the region of 60 million in the last 48 hours, and that was rejected. But the clubs are not that far apart here. And this is significant because Victor Osimhen has always been in the last few weeks, if not the last few windows, about would the player give anyone a green light? Was speaking to Chelsea last summer, was speaking to Al Hilal last summer and this summer. Never a green light. The difference here is Victor Osimhen has already agreed terms with Galatasaray on a 3-year contract. So the expectation, barring any new suitors or surprises, is if Galatasaray get this over the line in the next hours or days, that Victor Osimhen will be a permanent Galatasaray player. And I think what's happened here is Galatasaray did the loan. It was always seen as temporary. And Osimhen fell in love with Galatasaray, the fan base, the culture, the ability to play top European football still. And it's led him to change his mind a little bit. Whereas the expectation 6 months ago was that Saudi was pretty much a lock for Victor Osimhen. So Galatasaray are confident. The meeting I reference is ongoing right now. So keep an eye this afternoon or in the next few days, because Galatasaray want to wrap this deal up quickly if they can to avoid any surprises. Al Hilal is still there. They've said they'll trigger the clause, but they've got no green light from Victor Osimhen. And then if we get a situation where Hilal give up on Osimhen, which I think at this stage is a very realistic possibility, they might try again, as they did on June the 10th, for Benjamin Sesko. And now we're seeing a bit of a domino effect. Now, Sesko said no to Saudi definitively, but at that point, he thought Arsenal might come off. So let's see whether the player changes his mind. Victor Gyökeres to Arsenal. Sesko still looking for a club. I still think he'll want to stay in one of Europe's big 5 leagues, but Hilal could try for Sesko if they miss out on Victor Osimhen. But what I can tell you is in the last few moments, Victor Osimhen is getting closer to Galatasaray.
Oh, you're tempting me with all this transfer news, Ben. You've done a really good job so far. But I want to bring it back because at the top of the show, we asked Ben a Man United related question. Where will Marcus Rashford play football next season? Do you have an answer for us, please, Ben?
We don't have an answer yet, but we have a clear preference. Marcus Rashford wants Barcelona. Barcelona are interested in Rashford. And now the Nico Williams situation has resulted in him staying at Athletic Bilbao. Barcelona still need to strengthen on that left-hand side. I think evidence of how badly Rashford wants Barca is when Williams was still live for Barcelona, Rashford started saying, I'll play through the centre. But now he could go down the left or through the centre because Barca don't have their new left attacker because Nico Williams signed a new 8-year deal at Athletic Bilbao, keeping him at the club actually for 10 years because he had 2 years left on his old deal. So the challenge here is Barca would prefer a loan. Manchester United are sticking to their 40 million price tag. And the fact that Barcelona had said to Athletic Bilbao, our issue is registering, i.e. clearing up the wage space under the La Liga rules. But there was never a problem triggering and paying the 58 million euros release clause. Rashford's 40 million. That's less than 58 million euros. So if Barcelona make a formal approach to Manchester United, my understanding is Manchester United will say, you were ready to pay 58 million for Nico Williams. 40 million is less. It has to be 40 million and not a loan. And the only thing that could change is, of course, a loan with an obligation. But I think Manchester United, ideally, this early in the window, will stick to that 40 million pounds and permanent exit for Marcus Rashford. The only upside for Barca, if they choose to proceed with Rashford, is he won't be like Nico Williams, from my understanding. He will wait, and he will not want the same formal, written, binding guarantees of registration that Nico Williams craved if he was to leave Athletic Bilbao. Rashford will be patient. If Barcelona have an offer accepted by Manchester United, he will wait if it requires waiting to be registered. And this is why Barcelona have some optimism that if Manchester United play ball, Rashford may be possible. And Rashford is hoping that move comes off. Bayern is a possibility as well. I don't think he's going to move within the Premier League simply because the preference of the player is to try something abroad now. And I don't think, from speaking to sources in the last few days, that PSG will return either. So Barca a possibility. Don't rule out Bayern. A move outside of the Premier League. That's where we're at the moment with the future of Marcus Rashford.
Oh, that's really interesting, that. And look, there's no doubt that Marcus Rashford is a good player. So we're definitely going to watch this space. But I also want to say thank you very much for everyone who has tuned into the show. And if you're re-watching the show, even though it might not be live, we'll catch you in 1 week's time as usual, we'll be talking about the biggest football transfer stories with top guests. And you can watch us live on YouTube, X, and Facebook. Search Give Me Sport, or you can listen back on your podcast app of your choice. Just search for Market Madness. For more info on any of the stories we've discussed and much more, head over to GiveMeSport.com, and I'll see you soon. Joel Beya, Ben Jacobs signing out. Peace.